I was stunned by her request regarding that jar. A genuine tale of betrayal. I am Eric, a man who has always seen himself as straightforward and rooted, devoted to my family, my profession, and the customs that imbue my life with purpose. Yet, everything transformed during one remarkable weekend. It began with the simplicity of a routine hunting trip, accompanied by a man I hardly knew, a mere favor to my wife. Yet, what transpired in the woods challenged every fragment of my resolve, broke the limits I once deemed unbreakable, and compelled me to face yearnings I had never acknowledged. This is not a plea for judgment. Rather, it is a tale that continues to linger in my mind, and its conclusion remains elusive. Each year, the inaugural weekend of November heralds the beginning of deer hunting season, a cherished tradition of mine. It transcends the realm of mere pastime. It is a cherished practice, a means to break free from the monotony of everyday life and reestablish a bond with the natural world. Typically, my wife Emily accompanies me to our secluded hunting cabin, a refuge set within 20,000 acres of pristine Missouri woodland. For more than 10 years, we have transformed that land into our own slice of paradise, meticulously carving trails, establishing food plots, and refining the cabin to perfection. This year, however, was unlike any other. A few weeks back, during dinner, Emily revealed that she would not be accompanying me this time. She had earned the opportunity to participate in an esteemed series of educational reform meetings at the state capitol. Though I felt a swell of pride for her achievement, the prospect of celebrating my birthday and the hunting opener in solitude was far from exhilarating. Typically, I would have been indifferent to the idea, but my wife had been resolute, even fervent, in her insistence that I refrain from venturing out there alone, especially following the heart scare I experienced earlier this year. Haley is the answer to her dilemma. Haley was among Emily's colleagues, a young woman I had encountered on a few occasions at school events. She exuded a cheerful energy, radiating a youthful exuberance that made her seem much younger than my years. Recently divorced, Haley was traversing life with a brand of optimism that masked the sorrow I sensed she was shouldering. Emily had orchestrated Haley's inclusion in my inaugural hunting expedition, firmly believing it would benefit us both. I would not find myself in solitude, and Haley would have the opportunity to discover something novel. To claim I was doubtful would hardly capture the essence of my feelings. I had anticipated the peace, the serene mornings in the blind, and the tranquil evenings by the fire, accompanied only by my own reflections. Having a companion, particularly one who couldn't distinguish a rifle from a fishing rod, was not in the original design. As Friday evening descended, I eased my car into Haley's driveway. Emily had directed me to sound the horn, an act I would typically deem impolite, yet I acquiesced to her request. The front door swung open, and Haley stepped out, illuminated by the warm glow cascading from within the house. She carried a load heavy enough to equip a small army, yet her bright smile illuminated the twilight. "Hi, Eric," she called, her voice vibrant and brimming with enthusiasm. I stepped out of the truck to assist her in loading her belongings. "That's quite the arrangement," I remarked, gesturing toward the impressive stack of bags. She let out a laugh. "Emily advised me to arrive ready. Perhaps I have gone a bit too far." Throughout the entire drive to the cabin, her voice wove a tapestry of stories, narratives about her job, reflections on her divorce, and a collection of random anecdotes that painted a vivid picture of her life. The unexpected clamor was a sharp deviation from the tranquility I had anticipated, yet I found myself surprisingly unbothered by it. Her energy radiated, and I couldn't help but smile, even though I had been hesitant at first. We reached the cabin just as the clock struck 9 p.m., the moonlight spilling a gentle radiance across the surroundings. I set about activating the power and warming the space, while Haley ascended to the loft. As the fire crackled in the wood stove, the cabin exuded warmth and a sense of welcome. I nestled into the great room, switching on a classic war film, seeking a moment of tranquility. Yet, just as I started to relax, Haley's voice echoed from the loft above. "May I use the shower, please?" she inquired. Of course, I responded, my eyes scarcely leaving the glow of the screen. Moments later, the subtle creak of the spiral staircase reached my ears, My gaze was drawn to Haley walked past in her casual loungewear, her presence catching my attention briefly. It scarcely enveloped her, inching upward with each movement she made. My gaze held a moment too long before I compelled myself to turn away. An intriguing weekend awaited. As I settled into the great room, attempting to immerse myself in the war movie flickering on the small TV, the vivid memory of Haley gliding down the stairs in that minuscule towel lingered in my mind, refusing to fade away. The dim cabin light danced upon her damp hair, illuminating the sheen of her bare shoulders. An image I had no right to clutch, yet it remained, haunting me. I reprimanded myself, shaking my head in an attempt to dispel the clutter of my thoughts. Haley, a colleague and friend of Emily, was set to guide her on this trip, focused solely on the art of hunting. Nothing beyond that. The gentle cascade of the shower filled the air, accompanied by Haley's delicate humming. It carried an air of innocence, a certain cheerfulness, yet it pulled at a part of me that I found difficult to acknowledge. I endeavored to immerse myself in the film, leaning intently forward in my seat as the pivotal battle scene played out before me. Yet my thoughts drifted away. Haley, mere inches away, her voice echoing softly through the delicate barrier of the bathroom door. My chest constricted, and I balled my fists, forcing myself to push aside the encroaching thoughts. At long last, the relentless flow of water came to a halt. The gentle hum faded, giving way to the delicate whisper of a towel, accompanied by the subtle creak of floorboards as Haley navigated the bathroom. I fixed my gaze on the television, battling the urge to envision her presence just beyond that door. As the credits rolled, I seized the remote, channel surfing in pursuit of a diversion. As Haley finally stepped out, her hair, still damp, was enveloped in a second towel. She appeared revitalized, her cheeks radiating warmth from the steam of the shower. With a smile gracing her lips, she glided down the staircase, clad in navy blue shorts and a cropped white top that hinted at more than it concealed. As she shifted, the shirt crept up just enough to unveil a glimpse of her sculpted midriff. "Are you prepared for tomorrow?" I inquired, striving to maintain a nonchalant demeanor. "Indeed," she exclaimed with a bright smile, raising an empty jar of peanut butter high. "This is simply a note for future reference." I arched an eyebrow, a flicker of confusion crossing my mind, yet I chose to remain silent. She sank onto the sofa beside me, placing the jar gently on the coffee table. The delicate aroma of her shampoo drifted through the air, a harmonious blend of floral notes and sweetness. I shifted restlessly, acutely aware of the confined space that separated us. "I appreciate you letting me join you this weekend," she said, turning to look at me. Her eyes shimmered with authenticity and warmth. "Emily has certainly built up the anticipation for this hunting experience, and I can't wait to discover what it entails." "Certainly," I responded, mustering a smile. "This place is truly remarkable, serene and teeming with wildlife. You are bound to find pleasure in it." She reclined, folding her legs beneath her, and the motion captured my gaze, directing it to the graceful curve of her thighs. I averted my gaze in haste, silently berating myself. This challenge was proving to be more formidable than I had anticipated. For the next hour, we engaged in a lively discussion about the fundamentals of hunting. I guided her through the morning's plan, detailing the necessary gear and offering advice on maintaining patience in the blind. She absorbed every word, her head nodding in agreement as she posed insightful questions. Yet, from time to time, her eyes would rest on me, her lips forming a delicate smile that eluded my understanding. It lacked the overt playfulness of flirtation, yet it transcended mere friendship. With the fire crackling in the wood stove, Haley stretched, her arms arching gracefully overhead. The motion caused her top to shift upward, exposing the slightest hint of her lower back. I gulped, striving to maintain my attention on the dialogue, yet my determination was beginning to fray. At last, she rose, grasping the jar and making her way toward the loft. "Well, I think it's time to call it a night," she remarked, halting at the foot of the stairs. "Thank you once more, Eric. This weekend has already proven to be delightful." "Good night," I succeeded, observing her rise up the winding staircase. My eyes trailed after her until she vanished into the loft, the echo of her footsteps gradually diminishing. Once more in solitude, I reclined on the couch, releasing a lengthy sigh, the tightness in my chest stubbornly persisting. A sense of foreboding washed over me, hinting that this weekend was poised to unravel into complexities I had not foreseen. The following morning, I was roused by the incessant buzzing of my alarm clock. The darkness lingered outside, wrapping the cabin in an unexpected chill. I emerged from the warmth of my bed, a shiver coursing through me as my feet made contact with the cool hardwood floor. The remnants of a restless night lingered in my mind, casting a haze over my thoughts. The images of Haley descending the stairs last night, her carefree demeanor and bright smile, lingered in my mind far longer than they ought to have. With a slight shake of my head, I reminded myself to concentrate. Today revolved solely around the pursuit. Nothing else mattered. I swiftly donned my lightweight thermal gear, layering it beneath my familiar camouflage hunting attire. As I emerged from my room, the delicate aroma of coffee wafting from the kitchen welcomed me. Haley seemed to be awake, or so I believed. I reached out to the loft to confirm. "Haley, it's time to rise and shine," I declared, my voice slicing through the tranquil morning air. Moments later, her response emerged, laced with grogginess. "Certainly, just a moment, please." As I immersed myself in the morning routine, the enticing aroma of bacon and eggs danced in the air, sizzling delightfully in the pan. Though my culinary skills were limited, I had managed to refine a handful of uncomplicated dishes throughout the years. With the aroma of food wafting through the cabin, I caught the sound of her footsteps ascending the spiral staircase. As I turned to welcome her, my breath hitched in my throat. Haley glided down the stairs, her movements unhurried and nonchalant, as though she were simply embracing the essence of existence itself. Her damp hair framed her face, while her skin radiated in the gentle light that streamed through the cabin's windows. I averted my gaze, a warm rush of embarrassment creeping across my cheeks. "Good morning," she said, her voice airy and untroubled, as though all was perfectly normal. "Morning," I murmured, my gaze fixed with unwavering concentration on the sizzling bacon. "You may want to consider putting something on. It's rather chilly outside." She chuckled gently, the sound playful in its inflection. "Oh, come now, Eric, there's no need to be so bashful. It's merely skin." With the spatula gripped tightly in my hand, I found myself at a loss for words. My heart raced as she glided by, reaching for a jar of peanut butter nestled in the fridge. She leaned slightly over the counter, her back turned to me, utterly unfazed by her state of undress. I endeavored to maintain my focus on the stove, yet the allure of a fleeting glance proved to be utterly maddening. "Honestly," I remarked, striving to maintain a calm tone, "we're about to leave and you'll be quite cold out there." With a decisive turn, she began her ascent back upstairs. All right, I'll put on some clothes," she replied, throwing me a playful smile over her shoulder. "Rest assured I will be prepared." I exhaled a breath I hadn't known I was holding, shaking my head as I concentrated on arranging the food on the plate. When she reemerged, she was clad in her hunting attire, exuding an air of composure as if the earlier events had faded into oblivion. She took hold of her plate and made her way to the table, her voice bubbling with enthusiasm as she spoke of the day that lay before us. The tension that hung in the air was unmistakable, at least from my perspective. Each laugh, each smile she offered appeared to harbor a subtle depth of something left unsaid. I found myself torn between the notion that she was putting me to the test and the possibility that this was simply her essence, carefree and uninhibited. Regardless of the circumstances, it was increasingly difficult to overlook. Following breakfast, we packed the ATV with our equipment. Haley ascended to the seat behind me, her arms encircling my waist as I ignited the engine. The morning air nipped at my cheeks, yet the warmth of her presence enveloped me from behind, a sensation I could not ignore. She held on fiercely as we raced through the forest, the ATV slicing through the shadows. Upon arriving at the hunting location, I assisted her in dismounting the ATV and presented her with the rifle. "From here we walk," I murmured, my voice softer than usual. She nodded, her enthusiasm unmistakable. "Take the helm." As we journeyed through the woods toward the blind, the stillness of the forest appeared to reflect the quietude that enveloped us. A nagging sensation lingered, whispering that I was inching perilously near to a boundary I had no right to breach. Yet, the manner in which Haley cast her gaze in my direction when she believed I was unaware, the subtle arch of her lips when a smile graced her face, suggested she was fully aware of the effect she had. In that moment, I sensed that this hunting trip held significance beyond the mere pursuit of deer. The forest lay in a hushed reverie, a tranquility that only the dawn's first light could conjure. Haley trailed closely in my footsteps as we approached the hunting blind. The soft crunch of her boots on the fallen leaves barely disturbed the tranquil silence that enveloped the surroundings. I cast a few backward glances in her direction, making sure she was able to maintain the pace, yet she appeared more than adept. Her resolve was unmistakably carved upon her features. Despite my efforts to maintain focus, I found myself captivated by her remarkable ability to adapt with such speed. Upon arriving at the blind, I paused and faced her. "This is it," I declared, motioning towards the quaint edifice tucked away among the trees. "While it may lack extravagance, it certainly fulfills its purpose." Haley nodded, her eyes sparkling with anticipation. "It is simply flawless." I ascended the brief ladder and entered, keeping the door ajar for her. She trailed behind, her essence enveloping the confined area as she settled onto the bench next to me. The cabin exuded a warm intimacy, perfectly sized for two, adorned with a handful of quaint windows that framed the serene clearing beyond. The sun commenced its ascent, draping a delicate veil of golden light across the trees. Though I had witnessed it innumerable times before, this morning, it struck me with a fresh intensity. I passed Haley her rifle, my voice barely above a whisper. "Always prioritize safety. Ensure the barrel is directed away from yourself, and refrain from loading until you are fully prepared to fire." She nodded, her demeanor grave. "Understood." I reclined against the wall, observing her as she shifted her stance. Her movements were intentional and concentrated. For a time, we lingered in quietude, our breaths the sole echo in the confined space. The atmosphere surrounding us was thick, laden not only with the excitement of the chase, but with an unspoken tension that lingered in the air. I endeavored to concentrate on the clearing before me, searching for any hint of movement, yet my mind continually wandered back to Haley. She moved slightly next to me, her knee gently grazing against my own. I cast a fleeting look in her direction, yet she appeared wholly absorbed in the unfolding scene of the field. I reassured myself that it was merely an accident, yet that fleeting contact ignited a surge within me. I tightened my jaw, compelling myself to maintain my concentration. Eventually, Haley shattered the stillness that enveloped them. "It's so peaceful out here," she whispered, her voice a gentle caress. I inclined my head in acknowledgement. "That's one of the reasons I hold it dear. Only you, the woods, and the stillness." She smiled, her gaze briefly intertwining with mine before she averted her eyes. "I appreciate your kindness in bringing me along. I understand it may not have been your preferred option, yet it holds significant value to me." In that moment, I found myself at a crossroads, grappling with uncertainty about how to reply. "It's not an issue," I concluded at last. "Each person should have the opportunity to encounter this at least once in their lifetime." The minutes elongated, the atmosphere thickening with an ever-increasing tension as each moment slipped by. I endeavored to cast it aside, concentrating on the matter before me. Suddenly, from the periphery of my vision, I noticed a flicker of motion. I gave Haley a soft nudge, gesturing toward the clearing ahead. "There," I murmured, "at the boundary of the trees." She lifted her rifle, aligning it with my guidance. A youthful stag emerged into the clearing, its antlers modest yet discernible. It advanced with a careful grace, its head swaying gently as it inhaled the scents that lingered in the atmosphere. "Wait for it to turn broadside," I instructed, my voice barely rising above a whisper. "Aiming for a precise strike, just behind the shoulder, is essential." With a firm nod, she steadied her hands, aligning the shot with precision. For an instant, Time appeared to freeze. The forest, the deer, and even my breath were suspended in a tranquil silence. Then came the sharp click of the rifle. A wave of despair washed over me as the truth dawned on me. "No round is chambered?" I inquired softly. Haley's brow furrowed as she struggled with the lever to load the gun. Yet time had slipped away from her grasp. The deer had dashed away, vanishing into the dense underbrush. With a heavy sigh of exasperation, she lowered the rifle. "I believed it was prepared," she remarked. Her voice carried a hint of disappointment. "It's all right," I said, attempting to convey a sense of comfort. "Such occurrences are part of life. A new opportunity awaits you." She reclined, her head gently supported by the wall behind her. "I feel utterly foolish." "I am not," I responded. "The art of hunting requires dedication and skill development. You'll soon master it." The atmosphere in the blind transformed thereafter, the initial thrill yielding to a subdued sense of frustration. Haley shed her jacket, grumbling softly about the warmth enveloping her. I endeavored to concentrate on the clearing, yet my mind persistently returned to her. Her movements, her words were increasingly difficult to overlook. As she sat beside me, methodically shedding her thermal layers, it dawned on me that the warmth of the morning extended beyond the rising sun. The temperature was rising in this space, and I found myself questioning how much longer I could maintain my concentration. The atmosphere within the blinds was suffused with warmth, nearly oppressive, as the morning sun ascended steadily. Haley had discarded her jacket, now seated next to me in nothing but her undershirt and camouflage pants. I endeavored to concentrate on the clearing, scrutinizing the tree line for any hint of movement, yet the tension in the confined space was growing increasingly difficult to overlook. My heart raced within my chest, though I couldn't determine whether it was the thrill of potentially seeing a deer or the way Haley moved beside me, her subtle shifts capturing my focus. "Do you often find yourself sitting out here for hours on end?" she inquired, shattering the stillness. I responded, my gaze fixed ahead. With a heavy sigh, she leaned back against the wall, reflecting on how patience is an essential element of hunting. "This is wrong," I whispered, parting our lips yet holding her near. My forehead pressed gently against hers, and I sensed the warmth of her breath caressing my skin. "Perhaps," she responded, her voice a mere whisper. "Yet does it seem amiss?" I chose not to respond. How might I? She was correct. It felt entirely right. It was a rush, as if an unseen door had swung wide, inundating me with sensations long forgotten. A fragment of my being yearned to slam that door shut, to retreat to the sanctuary of my meticulously constructed existence. Yet another fragment, the one that had languished in numbness for far too long, craved to discover what awaited beyond. She leaned away just a fraction, her eyes probing into my own. "If you want me to stop, tell me now," she said, her tone grave. Yet, if you choose not to, her voice faded, placing the decision squarely upon me. I gazed at her, my heart thundering in my chest, a sound so fierce I believed she could sense it. Her eyes revealed no ill intent, no deceit, merely an unvoiced fragility that reflected my own. It was a moment frozen in the fabric of time, and I understood that whatever decision I made, there would be no turning back. I found myself uttering, my voice scarcely above a whisper. I found myself torn and unable to speak the words that could have prevented what followed. Her lips formed a gentle smile as she leaned in once more, her hands gliding up to hold my face tenderly. This time, the kiss was bold and assured. It was profound, intentional, and brimming with a fervor that sparked a flame within me I believed had long been snuffed out. I felt the weight of the moment as the distance between us seemed to disappear. We lingered in that moment for what seemed like an eternity, the outside world fading into a mere echo. Every glance and silence between us was heavy with emotion and internal conflict, imbued with the awareness that we were traversing a boundary that could never be undone. Yet, in that instant, I felt indifferent. After so many years, I finally experienced the sensation of being seen, desired, and truly alive. Gradually, the chill started to infiltrate the darkness, and she trembled beside me. I withdrew with a sense of hesitation, my hands lingering on her hips. "We ought to return," I remarked, my voice thick with feeling. She nodded, yet remained still for a moment longer. Instead, she leaned her head against my shoulder, her arms encircling me in a manner that was both soothing and protective. "I wish this moment could last forever," she whispered. "It needn't be so," I responded, the words escaping my lips before I could rein them in. The gravity of their significance enveloped me, yet I held no remorse for them. Not at this moment. We adorned ourselves in quietude, the strain between us now a palpable presence. As we journeyed back to the cabin, I found myself unable to resist casting furtive glances in her direction. The way her hair captured the dwindling sunlight, the arc of her smile when she noticed my gaze. The guilt lingered, a shadow in the recesses of my thoughts, yet it failed to eclipse the warmth blossoming within my chest. In the cabin once more, the fire crackled softly, casting flickering shadows that waltzed upon the walls. She sat opposite me, her gaze unwavering and enigmatic. "This alters the very fabric of our reality, doesn't it?" she inquired gently. I nodded, captivated, my gaze fixed unwaveringly. "Indeed, it does." The ensuing silence hung thick in the air, laden with unvoiced anxieties and truths that remained unrecognized. Yet, there lingered an additional element, an unvoiced truth that was impossible to ignore. A bond, an ignition, an inception. In that instant, I realized there was no way to retreat. The cabin lay in a hushed stillness, interrupted only by the sporadic crackle of the fire. Haley sat opposite me, her hands cradling a steaming mug of tea, her gaze fixed intently on the flickering flames. The tension in her shoulders was palpable, and I noticed how she furtively cast glances in my direction whenever she believed I was unaware. The burden of our actions hung in the air, heavy and oppressive. The morning's events played on a loop in my mind, the warmth of her touch, the lingering caress of her lips against mine, and the undeniable spark that ignited between us. Yet, as the weight of our decisions settled upon us, the exhilaration gave way to a more burdensome sensation. Shame, trepidation, uncertainty. "We need to talk," I finally declared, shattering the stillness that enveloped us. She gazed at me, her face a canvas of mystery. "I know," she replied softly, placing her mug gently on the table. "Yet, I find myself at a loss, unsure of how to embark on this journey." I leaned in, elbows perched on my knees, fingers threading through my hair. What transpired out there must never occur again. Her lips pressed together, and for an instant, I believed she might contest my words. Yet, she acquiesced with a nod, her eyes falling to her hands. "I understand," she murmured softly. Even in the midst of it all, I was acutely aware of its wrongness. However, her words faded into silence, a tremor in her voice. "Yet what is it?" I applied a soft pressure, yearning for her to voice it. She paused, her fingers nervously toying with the hem of her sleeve. Yet, it felt genuine, she confessed, her voice scarcely rising above a whisper. It was as if I had been yearning for this for an eternity, and I was reluctant to release it. Her words struck me with the force of a blow to the stomach, for I grasped their meaning all too well. For years, I immersed myself in routines, responsibilities, and obligations, turning a blind eye to the deepening emptiness within me. In those fleeting moments shared with Haley, the emptiness had been beautifully filled. For the time being, it may be so, yet it is brimming all the same. It resonated with me as well, I confessed, my tone barely above a whisper. However, that does not justify it. We have both ventured beyond the boundaries, Haley. A boundary that remains forever unyielding. She gazed up at me then, her eyes glistening with unfallen tears. "Do you feel remorse for it?" she inquired, her voice quivering with uncertainty. I paused, the inquiry piercing deeper than I had anticipated. Did I feel remorse for it? Indeed, I felt a deep sense of remorse for the treachery, the deceit, and the anguish that would inevitably arise should the truth be revealed. Yet the moment itself, the bond one had sensed with her, proved to be more elusive to articulate. I expressed my regret about the circumstances, choosing my words with care. I lament the implications this holds for my marriage and for your connection with my wife. Yet, I cannot deny that the moment reminded me of feelings I'd forgotten, but it came at a cost for the first time in years. Her tears cascaded down, and she hastily brushed them aside, her lips forming a tight line. "I never intended to complicate things for you," she remarked. "I envisioned this journey as merely a pursuit of game, a chance to uncover fresh knowledge." She halted, a look of disbelief crossing her face as she shook her head. "Nor did I replied, my voice laden with weight. "Yet here we stand, confronted with the task of determining our path ahead. Because if this were to come to light," I faltered, unable to complete my thought. The mere idea of my wife discovering the impending fallout was a weight too heavy to endure. Haley inclined her head, her demeanor grave. She vowed to keep it to herself. "It remains a secret hidden from all. And it remains so," I declared with conviction. "There are no mistakes, no opportunities for redemption. This concludes now." She swallowed with difficulty, nodding once more. "I comprehend." For a moment, silence enveloped us both. The fire crackled softly, the logs adjusting ever so slightly as the flames danced and devoured them. I gazed into the glowing remnants, contemplating how a flame that once blazed with such intensity could diminish in an instant, reducing everything to mere ashes. At last, Haley rose to her feet, encircling herself with her arms as she faced the staircase. "I think I'll head to bed," she murmured, her eyes avoiding mine. I watched her ascend the spiral staircase, her footsteps both light and purposeful, and I nodded in acknowledgement. As she vanished into the loft, a long, trembling breath escaped me, my head sinking into my hands. The day's burden bore heavily upon me, stifling and relentless. I understood that the past was immutable, yet I recognized the importance of not allowing it to shape my identity. My marriage, my family, my integrity, they all hung in the balance now. Despite the allure of pondering what could have been, I knew I couldn't allow this misstep to dismantle everything I had painstakingly constructed. Gazing into the flickering embers, I silently pledged to myself. This would Eric the final occasion, the most recent occasion when I allowed my cravings to take precedence over my reason. The most recent occasion when I jeopardized everything I held dear. Yet, as I uttered that vow, a tiny, deceitful fragment of my mind questioned whether I possessed the fortitude to uphold it. Upon reflection, a singular truth emerged with striking clarity. Every action we take, regardless of its transience or emotional impetus, inevitably bears consequences. In life, the significance of boundaries cannot be overstated. Temptation can be a powerful force, but it is crucial to look past the immediate allure and reflect on the potential harm it could inflict on those we hold dear. Trust and loyalty are delicate constructs, and when fractured, they seldom find their way back to wholeness. When faced with emptiness or unfulfilled needs in a relationship, the most prudent course of action is to confront these issues candidly, rather than pursuing temporary fixes outside the bond. The price of deceit is far too steep, while the tranquility that comes from a clear conscience is beyond measure.